Welcome to Holistic Podcasting. I'm your host and producer, Kristin Chadwick. After being in the podcast industry since 2016, I am determined to inspire you to start, grow, and maintain your podcast through a holistic approach. If you're an entrepreneur, coach, author, or leader, you need a podcast. And friend, I'm here for you as an experienced podcast coach for over 6 years, working with numerous top podcasts and hosts. Your voice needs to be heard and your story needs to be known. Through holistic podcasting, you will learn how to market your business coming from an aligned and centered place and through intentional strategy. Thanks for listening to the show. Here we go. What's up, podcasters? This is your host, Kristin Chadwick, your podcast coach. I hope you guys are doing well. I just want to give you a quick little update and say, wow, September just went flying by. I don't know about you, but it was jam-packed with lots of fun things. We had, I celebrated my 41st birthday. I have gotten to speak to multiple moms groups, and that has been such a delight. And you guys, a little bit of humble pie here. Your podcast coach needs to block off some time to do some batch recording. So this was barely putting out there tomorrow on Friday. Yes, I am doing a last minute recording. You guys, it happens to the best of us. And so I just want to be real and upfront with you guys that even me, who is coaching people all the time to batch record, is struggling to get some podcasts out. Sometimes life happens. Sometimes there's things with our kiddos that take up a lot of our time, and that is okay. I am a mama first, and there's some other things that have been going on around here that have taken up a lot of space and energy. And so today I am able to sit down and really just work out what I wanted to say in this podcast. So this is episode 40. This is all about start with why. And I wanted to hit here because of a couple of reasons. One is we've been talking a lot about personal brand. We've been talking a lot about marketing. And you, as you know or don't know, I just finished the program 75 Hard. And in that, I did read the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. And I thought it was so important for you to hear as a podcaster that I'm bringing it to you today. Because before you do a marketing plan, before you even understand your personal brand, I personally think that when you start a podcast, you really have to dig into the why. Why are you starting a podcast? You need to have clarity and you need to have purpose so that you can create with intention. And you want to feel clear on your message. You want to have a clear sense of why, because it sets up expectations for your audience. When we are unclear on our why, that's when confusion happens and lack of focus. Maybe our audience begins to feel that confusion as well. And your podcast can get too broad. I have had the honor of coming alongside many, many podcasts. And some of the podcasts out there are so extremely broad that they don't really know how to hone in after they've started, how to hone in on their why. And it's because you're really unsure of where you really actually want to go with your podcast. And so if we are unclear on our why, then we start to feel overwhelmed. We start to feel a lack of motivation. Maybe we don't want to press record because we don't know, or there's a lack of energy there. And I can tell you that your audience will sense that as well. So you have to have a why. You just have to dig in and unpack your why. And this is where you start. Your why is tucked in to this part of your brain called the limbic system, where language is really hard to describe. It's not easy to unpack your why. It's a very gut intuition explanation of your purpose of pressing record. And it's really hard to put into words. I mean, even just now trying to describe it is difficult. So I want to come alongside you and just say, I am here for you. I know that there are people out there who have begun a podcast and now you're 10 episodes in, 20 episodes in, and you're like, oh, no, wait, I don't know if I ever established a why. Well, that's where I get to come alongside you and I get to coach you to pause and ask some deeper questions. So I see you. And if you are not already starting a podcast, then you're in an excellent position to really dig deep into this conversation today. So listening to the show today, I really want you to think about your awareness of why you're doing this, your values, and how it's going to align with what you're doing. So I promise today you're going to walk away feeling clear on your sense of why and be able to build on top of this foundation as you plan out your podcast shows. And on this note, you guys, I have a very special guest that's going to be coming on the show. And she's going to talk about how she planned out her shows because she knew her why. And I cannot wait for you to hear that. So that's a little plug for next week. It's coming soon. All right. So in this book of Simon Sinek, and also you can go on YouTube and just search up Start With Why. And Simon Sinek's TED Talk is on there. And he has a whole theory called the golden circle. So basically inside of this circle there's 3 layers. So on the outside is the what you do. In the middle layer is how you do it. And in the inside of it, you have the why of what you do. And most companies start from the outside in. So they're talking about what they do. So as a podcaster, what we do is we have a podcast. Maybe we have a coaching business. We come alongside and encourage other moms, or we talk about our journey in our faith. And those are all great things of what, but the people and the companies that thrive are the people that start with why and then go out. So they start with why, they work to how, and then they talk about what. So in your podcast, if you think about this in the book, Simon talks about the example of Apple computers. That is what they do. They make Apple products, computers, phones, watches, all of the Apple things. But people don't buy Apple because of what they produce, because in his example, he talks about there are just as good technology out there that are probably even better technologically than Apple. But because Apple has flipped it around and they started with why, they want to be accessible for anybody to be able to do it. They want to have people think differently. They want every person to have access to a computer in a easy, sleek looking way. And so that is their why, right? It's not what they do. So if you think about IBM or Samsung, they're starting on the outside of this golden circle with what and moving inward. So what I want you to do as you are thinking about your why in your podcast, I want you to start with thinking about what is it that people want to come to you and experience. Another example of this would be I have one of my podcasters that I help produce her show. An excellent example of this is Kristin Boss, Purposeful Social Selling. And they have really honed in on why. She wants to create an anti-hustle culture within the network marketing world. So that is why she does what she does. That's why she's on her podcast every week, presenting valuable, extremely valuable coaching for every network marketer and coach out there. And then how she does that is through her podcast, through her coaching, through her academy. And what is she doing? She is coaching people through the network marketing industry. So that is a very good example. So if you're struggling with your why, first of all, I want you to know that you can schedule a one-on-one coaching call with me and we can get real clear on your why. It's really hard to kind of do a generic statement over this, but if we worked one-on-one together, you would walk away with a very clear purpose for your podcast, your why, not just what you do, but your why you're doing what you're doing. For me, in my experience of having holistic podcasting, my why is I want to be leading podcasters to live holistic, authentic, purposeful lives that are inspiring, because we need to bring a healthier people into this world who are leading the world to be brighter, to be a more hope-filled place. And I believe that people's stories matter. Your voice matters, right? You've heard me say that over and over again. That is my why. My what is I coach, and how, this is my how. I coach people. I do podcast management for multiple clients. Those are all great things that are my what, but my why is very much connected to leading others to live holistic, authentic, purposeful lives. Another quick tip too, to figure out your why, if you're struggling with this, is to ask people, ask your listeners, why are they listening to you? Why did they choose to listen to your podcast? They have millions of podcasts to listen to. And ask them to respond. Tell them to send you an email, to follow you on social media and let you know. Why did they choose you as a coach? I have heard people say that they have chosen me as their podcast manager or their coach because I am their biggest cheerleader. They know that I will be in their corner cheering them on, and that I can bring peace and space for them to process through their purpose, through their discovering what their podcast is going to look like and why they want to do it. Simon Sinek says in his book, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that is key. So if you're thinking about this when you're podcasting, if you're trying to promote your coaching, the biggest thing is going to be, why are you doing it? What is the heart behind it? That heart connection. People know intuitively what is going on deeply in you. So checking those mindsets. Because in podcasting, they don't listen because of what you do. They listen and they press play and have valuable time that they share with their earlobes, with you, whispering inside of their ear or talking inside of their ear very intimately because of why you do it. This reminds me too of one of the top life coaches out there, Stacey Bayman, and she talks about, if you are thinking in the back of your mind any negative self-limiting beliefs, then people are going to pick it up. And that's why, hey, we have to continue to coach ourselves through what are those limiting beliefs that we are getting hung up on. And it's so correlated with our why. If we're not anchored in and clear, then we're going to be all over the map, kind of throwing noodles against the wall to see if it sticks, right? We would be untethered and unanchored, unclear, vague, unintentional. And you guys, you know what that leads to is burnout. That's where pod fade comes in. When we are not being intentional, when we are not clear on where we're headed and why we're headed there, then that leads to just overwhelming use of energy that maybe we do not have and we're losing a lot of it. Again, if you're struggling with your why, you can definitely schedule a one-on-one coaching call with me and we can get real clear on your why. Number 2, I'm going to have a free PDF in the show notes to help you find your why. Just some deeper questions for you personally to just sit through and pause and reflect. I hope that in this, we are going to avoid wasting that energy on creating irrelevant content, that we are going to avoid confusing our listeners who don't convert because maybe we're misaligned. Maybe we're promoting our coaching program, but our podcast is not hitting an area that they're connecting with. We're going to avoid giving up in the long run because of lack of clarity. When we develop our why, then we can really, truly anchor in, get clear, get intentional, get purposeful content, and be at peace of why you're sitting behind the mic. How do we define why as a podcaster? And this is where you can really start to tangibly dig in. It is your purpose. It is your cause. It is your deep to the core belief of why you are doing this. And counterintuitively, instead of asking why to figure out your why, we need to unpack through what are the stories that have impacted you to get to this place in your life where you are committed to being a podcaster, committing to be somebody of influence behind the mic, and really going back into those stories and seeing what is it that inside of you came alive and what is the impact that you want to bring to the world. What is your purpose and your cause and your belief that you are bringing to the table every week, each week? And again, your why is going to really revolve more around feelings. It's just basically how we are hardwired. It's in our biology. It's actually not psychology. It is a part of our brain that is what compels us to do what we are doing. And it can cross over every border of what we're doing. It can be fluid in where it connects with us in our why of why we do coaching. It can connect with us in our why we do podcasting and why we are showing up for ourselves, our kids, our marriage. It can all be interconnected. So that's why it's so important to either get with a friend, get with a coach, get with me, and really dig into your concept of why, because everything is going to stem from that place to create a very aligned, very authentic, a very valuable podcast that your podcast listeners can resonate with, they can connect with, and they can intuitively connect to your why as well. Okay. Oh man, you guys, this book, it is such a great classic. It was one of those books that sat on my dad's shelf for many, many years. It is a little outdated, the Start With Why. Just the conversations that he talks about are a little older, but his newer book, Find Your Why, is really good too, because it gives you tangible ways to uncover those places too, if you want to do it on your own. All right, so that is my book review and my sharing of the knowledge that I gained through reading Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And again, you guys, I am here as a resource as your podcast coach, your life coach, and would love to help you discover what inspires you to press play every week. All right, take care, y'all. Bye. Thanks for listening to Holistic Podcasting. I want you to know that I truly value every listen. To show my appreciation, I offer a one-on-one free podcast consultation call. Whether you're wanting to start a podcast or you're ready to take your podcast to a whole nother level, come sign up. The link is below, down in the show notes. Have a great day.